So good evening. My name is JP. Welcome to John Paul Music UK, and this is our live stream all about live looping. So first of all, let me know where you're hailing from. We've got the chat on this side over here, so please give us a shout in the chat. I'm just going to change a couple of things over. First of all, we're going to do that just to make it look a little bit nicer. And if you've never done this before, this is a live stream where you can ask me anything. And if you're familiar with my channel, maybe you've watched the channel before, all about like looping or live streaming, and I'm just going to show you a couple of things today and just a couple of tips and tricks. And we've got a couple of things on the table. We normally have a big keyboard up here. I've replaced that. The keyboard's just over there right now, and we've got a couple of loop pedals. So I just want to show you a couple of things. First of all, let's get this out of the way. And also, this stream is sponsored, and this is a sponsored live stream by DistroKid, which is a one-stop solution for distributing your music around the world. So if you're familiar with DistroKid, or if you're not familiar with DistroKid, they basically, give your music to them, they push it out to all the streaming sites, all the online stores around the world, and then it's one price per year, which is $19.99. And with that link that's under there, you can get 7% of your first annual membership. Now, they have a couple of different tiers. So the first one is $19.99. The next one is called Musicians Plus, which is $35.99. And with that, you get a little bit more tweaking. So you can do things like adjust the release date and a couple of other bits as well. And then you can have up to 2 musician names. So you could have yourself and then your band, for example. And then the other thing as well is you've got the label version, which is $79.99 per year. And that is basically as many as you need. And it's really, really cool. And I'm now pushing music via DistroKid. But if you want to obviously have a look, they do some cool things like promo cards. They do some cool things like, for example, they give you a dedicated website for every release that you've done, which is called a hyperfollow. And that way you can just give someone the hyperfollow, and if they're on Spotify or Apple Music or Pandora or Amazon, they can just go and follow you from there. It's really, 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 really cool. So this live stream is sponsored by DistroKid. Click the link and it gives you 7% off your first annual membership. If you're joining us on YouTube or you're joining us on Facebook, then you should find the link in the description box below as well. Right, now, this live stream is all about live looping. And what I've done is, you may see here, I've got another camera, and what we've done is we've set the camera up so it's going to be in split screen mode. And I want to show you a couple of cool things, tips and tricks. There's also some questions that have arisen over the past couple of weeks around about a couple of different loopers. So I want to answer them in this live stream. And if you've got a question, this is your time to ask it. Please put it in the chat, and the chat is just here. And then what we'll do is we'll answer it. I'll try and answer it if I know the answer. Simple as that. So what we're going to do is I'm going to show you this. This is basically our second camera. And what we've got here is we've got the RC500. And I'm going to try and move this now very carefully. We've got the RC5, the RC500. And this is the circle looper, which is I've done reviews on all 3 loopers. These are all floor pedal loopers. I'm just going to move that back a bit. There we go. And if I raise this camera up any higher, you wouldn't be able to see me. So I've kind of kept it like that. Let's see if we can move it that way instead. Wrong way around. Oh, never mind. So what we're going to do is, if you've got any questions regarding any of these loop pedals, please let me know. Now, a couple of things I want to answer straight away. I've been asked this a couple of times now, certainly with the RC5 and the RC500, and that is all about routing. So if you're not familiar with these pedals, what they are there is the RC5 is a single phrase looper, and the RC500 is a 2-track looper. Both got 99 memories, both got a ridiculous amount of storage time on board them. Let's do that. There we go. And what they can do is a lot of things. Now, people turn around and say, oh, is it just a miniature upgrade to the RC30? No, it's a real heavy upgrade to the RC30, the RC500. And then the RC5 is a huge upgrade from the RC3 as well. So first of all, they're 32-bit floating, which basically means they're really, really high audio quality. And I'm going to talk about the circle looper in a bit, but the circle looper's got a couple of nice tricks up its sleeve, which is amazing and for its price point. So the RC500 and RC5 are 32-bit, and there's around about, I want to turn around and say 11 hours or 13 hours, I can't remember off the top of my head, recording time in total, but you can record up to 1.5 hours per loop. Think about that for a second. 1.5 hours per loop. That's insane. So that's I'm going to utilize that in another trick I want to show you. Now I've got these switched on, but I haven't got them plugged in. I haven't got microphones plugged into them or anything like that. But we're just going to talk around about the tricks and the things that they can do. And just if you've got one, great. If you're thinking about getting one, then obviously have a look at some of my videos, and I've got links there that are affiliated links. So obviously helps support this channel. And if you want to pick yourself one up. So let's go into routing. So first of all, on the RC500, we've got track 1 and track 2, and on the RC5, we've only got 1 track. But you can route the input and output. I get asked this all the time now. So with the RC30 and the RC3 and the RC1, what you did was you plugged in your input A and input B. It used to be input left and right, simple as that. You've got a microphone and input left and right. And then that was it. You could only basically plug in left and right, and then you'd be output left and right. So what was on the left would go out the left, and what was on the right would go out the right. The downside on the RC30 was that the microphone would basically come out of both, regardless of what you did. So you couldn't split that up, but with this you can. So you can actually go into the routing of this. So what we can do is we can go into memory. Hopefully you can see that. I might have to turn these lights down just so you can see that. But let me see if we can adjust that slightly. And we can actually go into preferences. I don't think you can see that, can you? I hope you can. But what we'll do is, let's just turn these lights down a little bit, and then hopefully you should be able to see setup preferences. It is a bit bright, isn't it? So I'll tell you what we'll do. Let's do one of the things you can do, which is in the general display. Let's turn that down. There we go. There's something you can do straight away. There's one of our first tips. So you can change the brightness display. Can you see that now? Hope you can. So when you're in the display, you can actually do a couple of different things. And there's a couple of things you can do which are system-wide. And there's a couple of things you can do that are memory-wide. And the RC500, the one thing you've got to remember is it doesn't assume anything. Good evening. How are we? This person who keeps commenting on my channel is also an absolute legend when it comes to RC5 and RC500s. So I want to say Plemoni. So yeah, absolute knowledge is top up there. So if I can't answer it, 31 Plemoni will answer it for you, definitely. But there's a couple of things you can do. So let's go into routing. So what we can do is we can route the audio input and output. Now, the great thing about that is when you route stuff over, you can actually do things really, really easily. Now, as I said before, come on. Well, you've been answering really, really stuff that I haven't even had a chance to answer yet, and you beat me to it on my own video, which is good. I like that. I'm all for it. The whole reason for this channel is knowledge and get people to realize that you can do so much with these things. Hi, how we doing? You okay? One other thing as well, I just wanted to point out, we're on Restream, which basically means this chat is what's called a multi-chat. So you'll see Plamono is actually on YouTube and Lemopani is on Facebook, and you guys can talk to each other. So this is the beauty of Restream with a multi-chat, which I really, really like, which is cool. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to have a look at changing this over. So you can change this over either if you want to basically go into the system in the memory and recording, you can change overdub mode, action, replay, quantize. There's all different kinds you can do there. And then when we go into play mode, we've got multi, we've got levels, we've got all different kinds there as well. I'll go into that in a second. But what we're going to do is we're going to go over to where are we? Wrong way. Menu, general. Preferences. There we go. I'm pressing all kinds of buttons and I'm completely forgetting where I'm meant to be. What I'm meant to be doing is pressing the input button. This is the thing with live. I can't cut it out. So if we go to inputs, this is basically everything, not just to do with the mic, it's to do with all the inputs. And then when you go across, there we go. So mic in it says the output is A and B, and we can change that. So for example, imagine you want your microphone and your guitar to come out of A, but you want the drums to come out of B because you want to change the level of them. Or maybe you're not using the microphone, you're just using input A and input B. If you have a look at one of my videos, which is called dual mono looping, it was done quite a while ago, and it was to solve this entire problem. But now Boss have solved it for us. So we don't have to do dual mono looping if you don't want to. You can literally trigger it all the way you want. So of course we can go output A or off, or output A and B, whatever you want to do, A and B or A, and then off if you want to. The instrument, of course, we can go output A or output B or off. And this is a really great way about doing dual mono looping. Graham, how are we? You okay? You've seen that one. Good. Fantastic. That's what we like. So there's loads you can do with this on input. Now, the great thing as well is it does support phantom power. So if you want to use something like, a big mic like this, which needs phantom power, needs 48 volts, you can push that through. And then you've got your instrument. Now, you also got rhythm. So your rhythm, you can change whether it's output A or B, or, and this is clever, you can actually just have the rhythm only going through to the loop. So you can record it in and that's it. Or we can have off. And then when we go through, you've got rhythm. Now you've got mic sense ins NS, basically, which is basically the sensitivity. Now I've had a couple of questions about the mic level is really low on a RC5 or 100 specifically, and it is because the mic sensitivity, there is basically like a mini compressor, like a digital compressor built into this, and it's set at around 50. So what I've done is I've turned it on to 0. I hope you can see that, by the way. And what I've done is I've actually turned that down to 0. What I would suggest is if you're finding the mic input level low and you're having to turn it all the way up here, then what I would suggest is have a look at the mic in the NS, as it says there, and have a look at that and play around with it. And you've got the instrument NS as well. And it's designed really so you don't clip the thing, really. But the fact is that the mic instrument, the mic input is a little low, if I'm honest. So have a play around with that, and then that should solve that issue. And then you've got peak source all in, and this is this little light here. So the peaking source, so all of them. So if you peak at all, this little light will go green and then red. Or you can say, I just want it to be the mic, or I just want it to be the instrument. This tiny little light that's here, sorry, I'm covering it with my own finger. That's clever, isn't it? That is really, really useful. Yes, a DI box will help with the mic, of course. Or if you've got a mic with, say, for example, like a big mic like this, if you've got like a cloud lifter, something like that, you can use, definitely. But yeah, a DI box, if you're live, very, very simple little system. And I know a couple of people do things when they're looping. They have either one mic with a AB switcher, and some people have two mics, one mic dedicated to looping. So you want to make sure that's right. You want to make sure that mic gets sorted. So that is input, and that is everything but there that's an input. So it's really, really useful, and you can change the inputs and outputs really, really easily now. It's just something they solved, and it's something that let's just discuss at the moment the Boss Quick Start Guide. That's my face for that. And what I would suggest is if you've got an RC500, go and get what's called the parameter guide. And then with the RC5, which we'll move over to in a second, go and get the other one as well, which I don't think it's called a parameter guide. I think it's called something else. Reference guide, I think it's called. I don't know why they named them differently either. I really wish they were. I realise they're saving paper by not printing it and putting it in the box, but I really wish that that was just in the box, or it wasn't a quick start guide, it was just a full guide. But hey, I get it, I understand we're saving the planet with paper, so that's fair enough. So that is the first thing, basically talking about routing with this one, and you can basically do routing on this one as well, on the RC5. So let me know what you're thinking, guys. So hi, Gaia. Hi, mate. Thanks for your continued online material. Ooh, why do you think more app developers haven't gone in the direction of Group the Loop? Clearly supreme functionality and inspiration for creating. So obviously I'm talking about hardware loopers. Let's talk about software loopers. Let's go into it. So it just so happens I have the iPad right here. So Group the Loop, for those who don't know, is there are a number of apps out there. And let's just do this. I've got my music production thing. I've got lots of different things here, and Group the Loop is this one right here. And Group the Loop is awesome. Yeah, I get it. I think also it's one of those things where with Group the Loop, there's so much you can do with it, and there are loads of loopers out there. Loopy HD is where I started on iOS. That's what the first like decent looper I found, and I was using like an iPhone 4S, I think, or even 5, I think, at the time, to make those loops. If you scroll right down to the bottom of my my YouTube channel, there's some fun videos on there, and it's really good. It works. It's fine. I haven't found any issues with it. I have found 1 or 2 issues with plugging in audio interfaces with the M1. If I'm just talking about the M1 iPad, this is the M1 iPad. This is the latest iPad, the 5th generation, the 12.9 inch. So I did a video about that as well. I swapped out the 3rd gen iPad for the 5th gen iPad, and the reasons for that is not for now. It's not because of today. It's because of in 6 months' time, in a year's time. So this M1 chip is just screaming fast. I mean, someone put a thing out about, I know we're talking about looping. I'm just going to digress into the M1 for a second. Someone put a report out that someone did a Geekbench test and it beat every iMac that came before it. And then they brought the iMac out with the M1 chip. So that chip, even the iMac Pro, by the way, $4,000 iMac. So that chip is in this iPad. And I believe that it's not about now, it's about 6 months down the line. So we're in a transitional period with, Apple and all that kind of stuff. So for music production, I can only see it getting better. So I was like, right, I'm jumping on it now. I'm going to get this. And when they said they can put the M1 chip in, I was all over it. So I'm well happy that I've made that decision. I'm going to stick with that decision because I got it. I also do all my video editing on an iPad as well. So I don't do any video editing on my Mac anymore, my poor Mac. I do it for live streaming and I use it for audio, but for video editing, it can't handle it. So yeah, if they release Logic iOS, fine, but otherwise, yeah. And there was a big thing. People were hoping there was going to be some kind of Logic and Final Cut iOS back in when they did the Worldwide Developers Conference. Yeah, so good if they do something like that. I'm using LumaFusion for anyone who's interested for video editing, and for audio on the iOS device at the moment, I'm dabbling in Cubase. Cubase is 3. So Cubase is still use GarageBand because it's integrated with Logic, and Logic is my main thing that I do on my Studio Mac. That's basically I'm pointing at right now. It's a 2013 iMac, so it's basically what, 8 years old, and it still runs Logic fine. I can't get the latest version of the software on it, but it still runs perfectly fine. It's the one before 5K, and it's absolutely fine. I can still put random thing. Anyway, I digress. Moving back over. So for looping, yeah, it's an absolute powerhouse. And if they release the RAM to be able to loop, I think that'd be really, really good. Now we're talking. Goya. Oof, the Aeros Looper. This is a looper that I've been meaning to get my hands on for a while. I haven't yet because I need to get some funds to get one. And this looper, if anyone who's not aware of, it's called the Eros Studio Looper. It is a, how can I put this? It's a 6-phrase looper with 36 sections in. Basically, it's a whole studio looper, and it's about the size. It's about the size of 1.5 of these, and it's got a full touch screen, and then it's got a really cool dial, and it's really, really clever. But I need to figure it out. Oh, you've got one. You're selling it. Okay, never mind. Let's talk. We'll have a look. But yeah, it's a really clever system. So if it's the best hardware looper, Goya, you need to answer why you're selling it. So moving swiftly on. So the other question I get about this is about customization. So the buttons. So one thing that's really, really clever with this, and I think it's been really undersold, is there's 99 memories, and each memory can be a completely different. With the RC30, which I don't know why I'm pointing over there, you can't see it, but it's up there. The RC30, it was kind of like 99 memories, it all does the same thing, and that's it. And then, you can add things like this, like the FS6 or FS7 pedal, and it's one of those things where what they changed in this, it took a couple of weeks for people to get their head around going, oh, wait a minute, so this is record, play, stop, and track select, but I can have that whenever I want. So I've done videos on this where I've completely changed these buttons, and you can change it on this memory, and then I could go up to a different memory and it could be back to this. It's really, really powerful. But also the MIDI integration into this is something I've been wanting for years. And finally MIDI's in here, and MIDI's not just in here, but they've done it really, really good justice in my opinion. They've also done it obviously in the RC5, and let me move over to the RC5 and go there. So the RC5, again, I'm going to have to change the thing, aren't I? The display, because it's really, really bright. There we go. How's that? Can you see that? Let's put it onto 2. I think put it on 2. There we go. There we go. So that's actually still on different things. I did a video for Carl Wachner. Well, it was just a response video. Carl's doing a lot of challenges. If you're into looping, Carl Wachner's video and channel, because he does a lot of live looping and he's brilliant at it. But he's also now he's done his first loop challenge, and that number 10 there, Carl Loop Challenge. That's the one I was doing there. So yeah, this thing is great, and the dial on this, I don't know if anyone's aware of this, but the dial on this, look, if you look at that, it's thick. And that's a good thing. That's a really good thing. You don't want a really thin dial, especially if like you're in a gig. You want a big chunky dial, and I didn't expect that on the RC5. It's really, really nice and thick, and it's really, really easy to control. The clicks on all of these are really satisfying, and that doesn't make an audible click, but I don't know if you can hear that. Oh, it's lovely. Really, it's really nice. But the thing with this one is, again, you can change this. So this button right now, this pedal will start and stop a loop, and that's absolutely fine. I've just I've just done a video that's brought out this morning all about basically turning this into a backing track machine, where you actually just have this as play and stop. You import all the stuff via computer, your backing tracks, and then you use this basically to go up and down the different memories. Or of course, you can just scroll this through and go through whichever one you want. Now, a couple of things. Right now, that's on memory number 1, and it's blue, because it's empty. And this one's on memory number 10, and I've saved something, and it's white. So there is a slight color difference, and there's a reason for that. So yeah, it's basically really useful. Now, the thing with the memory and also the setup of this is that you can do lots, and you can change the pedals and got the dials here and everything else, and it's fantastic. And one thing that I've expanded with mine is yes, okay, I'm just going to stop talking for a second, because Palomi's absolutely right. Editing the loop names with the big button is a bit of a pain. So I actually got this question asked about editing the loop names, and it does feel it's very sort of like 2004. It doesn't feel like it's 2021 doing it. But if you go into memory, scroll all the way to the end, give it a click, there's the name. You have to click it again, and then you're back to this sort of like changing it, like scrolling it through one at a time. So yeah, it's not great. I suppose it's what they can get away with, within the space you've got. It's not a touch screen. You wouldn't want it to be a touch screen with this kind of looper. But at the same time, it's one of those different things where it is what it is. It's just a smaller thing. I'd really like it if, in some strange way, this had some kind of Bluetooth connectivity, and then you could actually pair it with an app. But I've seen other apps, that it would have to be really, really on it, where you could actually use a phone and have, say, like a phone here, and then just basically you've got a couple of buttons. You could use this on the floor, but then you could do it, and then you could type in the name. That'd be quite good. That'd be very, very useful. So one thing I did a video all about going like verse, bridge, chorus. And I don't know if this is an annoying comment, but the audio is very glitchy. I hope that helps. Oh, okay. Is it? All right. Okay. So is my audio going in okay? Is it a bit glitchy? Okay. No worries. Let's have a quick gander. Give me 1 second, guys and girls. There we go. Right. Okay. So let's have a quick look. There we go. Okay. Let's see if that makes any changes. I hope it does. There we go. Just in my audio interface there. So hopefully it's pushing a little bit further through. So one thing I want to talk about is the video I did about verse, chorus, bridge, that one. If you haven't seen that, you go and find it. Please don't leave now, but go and find it later. And this video is all about how you can use these with a verse and a chorus. Now the downside is if you do it on the fly, you have to save it and then you go up a memory, and that's really hard to do. Some people, someone even said in the comments, they do that. They have done that before, and I've spoken to someone else who did do that, where they'd literally make a loop, they'd save it, and then they go up a memory. And sometimes when they did that, it would just go busy, and the loop would stop. So that's really, really, really difficult. So it's one of those things where, excuse me one second. There we go. It's one of those things where that's hard to do, and some breakups on top camera too. Oh, okay. So we're streaming right through from Restream, so I don't know if that's obviously causing an issue. We're having some Wi-Fi issues in my area. Where I live is not the hottest for Wi-Fi. That's why I only pump out at 720p. So apologies if it's obviously a little bit glitchy tonight, but I will be posting this back up for a replay as well. But thank you for letting me know, Palomi. That's great. So yeah, the way of doing that is obviously you have to, if you just went up from like memory 1 to memory 2, when you go back to memory 1 and you haven't saved it, it's gone. Okay. Now this is where this one kicks in. And if you haven't seen one of these before, I was really, really surprised because I hadn't seen one before, if I'm honest. And I had a quick conversation with these guys called Donna, and Donna actually make a load of different things. They make a load of pedals, and they're cheap, and they make a looper. They actually make more than one. They make a little tiny one, and they make this one, which is called the Circle Looper, and they make one which is called the Triple, I think it's called. And the idea is called Circle Looper is because if I was to record something, so if I was to record now, and then hit play, you may see that there. It's actually going round and round and round in circles, and that's the whole point. It's a circle looper. And we're just going to stop that. But I've just made a loop, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to, let's have a look. Oh, it's that side, isn't it? I'm going to go, let me change it with my hand so you can see it. I'm going to go up a memory, and then up a memory, and up a memory, and then back down and back down and back down. And I was on memory 40, and it recorded it. It saved it. It's autosave, and I really hope autosave could actually come into something like these big boys, because that will actually help you do like verse, chorus, and everything else. This looper is 24-bit, not 32, but it's more than 16. It's 40 memories, not 99, and it's got a drum beat thing on it. It's pretty basic. It's 10 drum styles and 10 grooves for each style, and you can marry them together by pressing that button, and then that way the drum beat is in time with the looper. So we'll think of it as a split down the middle. So that's the drum beat stuff and that's the loop stuff, but you've got your play and your stop there, and you've got a couple of different things. So you can change the volume of the drum beat, you've got the volume of the looper, and it's really simple to operate, but actually it's pretty damn good. And one thing that's really, really clever about it is, again, you've got your left and your right out. There's no routing as such, so obviously whatever's left is going to go left, whatever's right is going to go right. Here's the kicker though, this thing's under 75 quid. And if you compare it to obviously other loopers that obviously have a bigger name and other things like that, then that is a really competitive way of getting into hardware looping. Sorry, I'm having some problem with my camera here at the moment. So the great thing about the Circle Looper is, obviously, I'd say it's under 75 quid. Have a look at the video I did on the Donald Looper. I go into it quite in depth, and I really like it. I think it's great. There's only one downside about it. Sorry, it's over here. Only one downside about it is there's no battery. There's no battery option, but there's no battery option in the RC500. But you haven't got MIDI. You haven't got, obviously, sort of like the way you can route stuff or anything like that. But it is really, really cool. Hi, Trevor. How are you doing? You okay? That is super cool. Nice. Thanks. So it is one of these things where there's loads of different ones out there in the world. There's the Ditto loopers. I quite like them because they've got a like a sort of they promoted it with true bypass sound. So when you click the button, it's like there's no like humming or anything like that. It's really, really nice. The boredom of lockdown going stir crazy. Oh, bless you. I hope you're doing all right, Trevor, because in the UK, if you're tuning in to anywhere else in the world, we are, as of Monday, what they're calling Freedom Day, where we're going to try and obviously get back to some kind of normality. There are some restrictions still in place, but depending on what you're doing or depending where you are. But yeah, lockdown's been a bit hard for a lot of different people. So this is why I'm here to entertain you on a Friday evening. But yeah, I mean, the thing is with looping, obviously, I can talk about software looping or hardware looping and its pros and cons, but I just want to answer a couple of different questions. And that, Goya, is a question I get all the time, and that's something I've never played with because Hyde, how you doing? You all right? So basically, yeah, the BeatBuddy. Now, the BeatBuddy, I've never got one, and the reason is because I don't really use them. I kind of do the boom, baka, boom, BT boxy noises, and I've always just done that. That's just the way I've kind of like grown up to do it. I've just like used my mouth to make noises. But I totally see the advantages of a BeatBuddy because you've got things like a verse, a chorus, a bridge. The beat changes, and you can sync that. Of course, that is the same company who make the Aeros Looper, and that works apparently very, very well when they're paired next to each other. So no is the answer. But what I'm thinking of doing is, obviously for the channel, is getting hold of one and showing you how you can marry it up with these things. And obviously they have their own rhythms in them. They have their own rhythm sections. I don't think they're bad. I think they're pretty good. I know the RC10R is kind of the BeatBuddy answer. And the Digitech, Doug, hi, how you doing? The Digitech, the Trio, that was kind of like was that the first one? Was that the first one that tried to marry looping and a BeatBuddy-esque kind of thing, or was it BeatBuddy the actually first one to do that? I'm not sure. You're not missing out. I have both. I still think GTA. Oh, really? That's interesting. So yeah, it is one of these things where it depends on how you use it. Now, obviously, we can go all the way up to, and it's been sitting there this whole time, and I'm just going to make the camera move a little bit as I do this, because it's really heavy. Of course, we can talk about this. Now, this thing is on a different planet altogether, and this, obviously, is, I would say, on the floor, the creme de la creme. And that is, obviously, on the Boss side, oh God, that's heavy. On the Boss side, there is. Let me just do that. There we go. On the Boss side, there is the RC505. There we go. By the way, I'm using. I don't know if you've seen. I'm using a little camera that you can lock and you can move around as my webcam, and it's actually proving very, very useful. So yeah, and it tracks your face, and that's kind of what it was doing before. I've stopped it doing it now. Yeah, the head rush. The head rush is brilliant, and it's one of these things where it's 4 pedals, and that's the reason why I went for it. I was obviously on the RC300. I had the RC30, then went to the 300. I sold the 300 to buy the head rush, pretty much, and I sold it to a friend of mine. And then obviously the RC505 came out, and I wanted to know what the difference was. Now, look at the size of that. You look at the size of the RC500 and you look at the size of the head rush looper board. That's 2 channels. You could buy 2 of them and you still wouldn't be spending the money that you would spend on a head rush looper board. So yeah, but the head rush looper board, the whole point of it is to get rid of almost everything get rid of, because it's got built-in effects. Now those effects aren't up to sort of what I would want at the moment, and there's something that I've always used and I'm never going to let go until someone beats it, which is the TC Helicon Voice Live Play Acoustic. Now I had the Voice Live 2 and 3 and the, what was the other one, the Touch one, Touch 2, of course it was Touch, and the RC the Voice Live 3 had You could go up to 8 vocal voices, and it was the vocal side of TC Electronics, and they do a lot of different products now. They are doing obviously branching out into things like live streaming and audio interfaces and things like that. They haven't really done anything new regarding vocal processors for a while, and I don't know if obviously the company's changing, but the TC, it's over there, it's out of shot. But the TC Helicon Voice Live Play Acoustic, I don't know what TC Helicon did, but something about the algorithm that just works with your voice. You just go up and down, hit go, and it just sounds so natural, and it's really, really lovely. You can change it so they're a little bit below it. I know Boss have got the VE8, which is kind of like a acoustic looper with a vocal thing in it, where it's got that kind of thing in it as well. But that goes way beyond that. It does things like a thing called body res, where you can actually get a different tonal sound out of your guitar. You can go up to, I think, 4 voices on that one in total, so it's 2 voices and it doubles. And then with the Voice Live 3, like the Voice Live 3 Extreme, it's got things like rhythmic ones. You've got stutters on the things like the RC500, but they're for the loops, they're not for your voice. And that's one thing that was a little bit of a shame. So the the effects on the RC500 are for the loop, and they're not for the input. So that is another question I get asked quite a lot. How do I get the effects going on my vocals? You can't. You can get it on the loop, and you can do stutters and everything else, and that's cool. You got vinyl flicks. But it only works on the loop itself, not your inputs. So just be aware of that if you're looking for vocal effects. But marry a Voice Live Play Acoustic with an RC500, and it's a real formidable duo. And they work really well together. And I still do dual mono looping because my vocal and my guitar go into that. And then the output of that, you can either have a stereo or you can have as separate outs. And that just goes in and out. Well, in left and right, and then out left and right onto the 500, and also can do that on the 5 as well. So let's have a little recap, shall we? So just to give you a little bit of information, if you've never joined me before, good evening, or good morning, or hello just through the middle of the night, depending on where you are. My name's JP. Welcome to John Paul Music UK. And what we're doing today is we're talking all about loopers and looping advice. So if you've got any questions regarding loopers, or if you just want to have a chat, that's what we're here for. This live stream is sponsored, and it's sponsored by the guys over at DistroKid, who are a distribution company. If you don't know what a distribution company is, basically you make some music, you give it to them, they push it out to all the digital streaming sites and stores around the world, and you can do as many songs as you want for one price per year, which is basically $20. It's $19.99, and with that link you can actually get 7% off your first annual membership. They do really cool things, so they do loads of promo cards, they do stuff like a website for your releases, and they've just done a thing for spatial audio. So Apple Music have just launched spatial audio, and if you've mixed it in spatial audio, then you can actually push that out to spatial audio as well. Obviously lossless, things like Tidal, things like Apple Music, obviously you can, if you're pushing the highest quality you can out, then they'll push that as well. They also do a couple of cool things. So they push your music out to places like social media. So they push it out to Facebook, they push it out to TikTok, they push it out to Instagram. Now, why would you want that? Imagine you make a Instagram story and you can actually then use your own music in the Instagram story to promote your music. So you can promote the track by creating a story with that track on it. And then when people play that, you get paid. So that's a really, really cool idea. And they push it out to a couple of different social media sites as well. So there's over 160 different stores and streaming sites around the world, and they push it out to almost all of them, pretty much. There's a couple of real obscure ones. So yeah, have a look. So DistroKid, obviously it's free to have a look. It's $19.99 for the basic package. If you want to do something under more than one name, so say you're doing yourself, you're releasing yourself under your own name, and then you're releasing yourself under a duo or a band, they have what's called Musicians Plus, and that's $35.99 a year. And then you've got a label version, which is $79.99 a year, and then you can release as much as you like. Well, you can release as much as you like for any of them, and then I say with that link you get 7% off. So thank you very much to DistroKid for sponsoring this live stream. But we are now obviously back to talk about loopers. So the second half of this actually was going to be talking about iOS loopers, funnily enough, but we kind of got beaten to it there. So I kind of made a couple of videos, 2019 now, so we're coming up for 2 years, for Loopy HD. Loopy HD on the iOS platform, on iPad. I started on an iPhone with Loopy HD, and it's just a fantastic tool to get some creative ideas down, if nothing else. And then from there, you kind of just go down what I call the Loopy wormhole, and you start finding other ones. So one that basically we talk about very often, but I really like, is L7 Looper, which is actually made by the guys over Pro. And L7 Looper, it does it just in a different way. Things like Quantaloop, and that looks like a pedal. I think they just wanted to design an iOS looper that looks like a pedal, and it works really well. You can integrate AUV3 plugins. You can put in different effects from different places, and that works really well. But L7, it does it in a different way. It does it where it's just a line going across, a little bit like Group the Loop, but it's just one line going across, and you add more in, and then you different variances. So if you've got 1 bar, you can have 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64 bars, and it goes on forever. You can do that really, really well. And then it has with L7 Looper, you've got effects for your vocal and effects for the loop as well, and they are built in. And then you can create phrases, which is really, really cool as well. I really like that. Brian, how are we doing? When live performing chorus, verse, bridge, and the RC500, when I switch memories, the previous recorded memory is erased. How do I preserve the previous memory without stopping and saving the memory manually? Yeah. So I take it you've just joined us. We were having a quick conversation about that with the RC500, and obviously when I made that video about using this. In fact, have I still got them there? Yes, I have. There we go. So this is from the video that we did. So we've got basically intro, verse, chorus, a bridge, and then what I did, I changed these over. So that one's the intro. I've got to think about this now. I haven't done it in a while. That one's the verse, and then that one was the chorus, and then that one was the bridge. But you're absolutely right. Make a loop. Go up a memory, come back down, and the previous one's gone. So what you have to do is, and this is a little bit difficult, but basically once you've made that loop, you are literally going to have to bend down and press exit and enter together and write that loop whilst it's playing. Then it's written up, and then you can go memory up and then record the next one. Then you're going to have to write that one and then come back down again. It's not ideal. What you can do to cheat that a little bit is maybe have a little bit of a loop already pre-recorded. So what you could do is you could basically go into it with you've got like a just a hi-hat to get you going, or and in the same amount of bars, and that can actually reduce the amount of pressure you need to actually hit it bang on. And then you could record a little bit beforehand at home, and then save that, and then you've got the base of it, and then you could add on top by overdubbing, and then you can just hit record, write to that memory. Sometimes though, and this is the problem, is that when you do that, this can turn around and go, I'm busy. And it could even stop the loop, and that's difficult. Where I was talking about this looper, which is the circle looper. I know you've got your 500 already, but the circle looper has what's called autosave on it. So you just go up to another loop, and it's automatically saved that loop. I really hope that ththese guys bring that technology into it, because this is a £70 looper. It's a really cheap looper, and it's got that. You can just go up a loop, and it's just saved it already. So I'd love that facility in here via a firmware update. I think that would be an absolute game changer for people, because you could just use the 99 memories and you could loop forever with different stuff. You could have a whole set list. And then what's the cool thing about that is, let's just say you create the loop of your life live on stage, and then you get home, of course it's never saved, so you've not got that groove, you've not got that feeling when you were live on stage. If it saved it, then you could go back and you could recreate it. You could get that feeling. Maybe you put something in that you didn't realize before. So something like that, that's the number one thing I want on this right now, is autosave. Because it's available on a £70 looper. I want that available on a different looper. Now, this could be a completely hardware thing, and I don't know. They could do it by firmware. That's my personal number one feature that I want on this and on the RC500. 5. But there we go. Let's see if us are listening. Hey ho. So yes, so how you can do it, there's a couple of the other ways you could do it, and one other thing you could do is you could sort of cheat. So the sort of cheat is where you say you can preserve the previous memory without stopping and saving the memory manually. So what you could do is you could stop the loop, and it depends on the song, but you could stop the loop and play just you and the vocal, whatever you're doing, or if you've got the drum beat, and you could hit right whilst that's happening, and then you could then start it up again. I know it depends on the song, and it's totally like not ideal. What I would suggest you do, have a play with it, see if you write to the memory whilst it's still playing. So if it's still playing and it's right to memory, and then just go up a memory, great, fantastic. If it stops the loop and then it says too busy, it's just the way it is. The only way around that is to create almost like a backing track. Now, the other thing I was going to talk to you about as well is using these, all of them really, in completely different ways. And one of the ways we were talking about was actually using them as a field recorder. So what I mean by this is, just say you're in a band, you're in a duo or whatever, you're not looping at all. We're not using loopers right now, and we just record. We want to record ourselves, and we want to record what we've done at a gig. What you could do is you could even take, if you haven't got any loopers, you could go and buy one of these bad boys, which is a little unsung hero, the little RC5. And then what you could do is you could plug the control of your mixer or an output of the mixer, the display, by the way, it's a little bit jolty. You could plug in the mixer into here, like a separate buzz out into here, and we could hit record, and then you've got an hour and a half per track. Total, is it 13 hours time? Someone correct me on that if I'm wrong. Yeah, an hour and a half to record. I normally play 45 minutes, 50 minutes at a time max, and that's the whole set, and have a break. So you could hit record. It's recording at 32-bit floating. It's really high quality. You don't need to plug an out. You need to plug an out to keep it going, but you could just plug in a little jack that goes nowhere, and then you literally just plug the ins, and then it's recording at that high quality. It's recording at one level that's on the mixer, really useful. And then when you get home, you then obviously can then download that to your computer or your digital audio workstation, and you've got your whole gig, and you could then push that gig out, which leads me nicely onto, obviously, you could then do that with DistroKid. So you could obviously this out through DistroKid. Now, be aware, obviously, if it's your own material, that's great. You could do a live album. If it's obviously covers, DistroKid do cover you for that, but there are charges to cover you for covers to make sure you're doing it properly and you don't get into trouble. But you could use DistroKid to obviously then push that gig out. I've said this before, but I went to see the Bare Naked Ladies a couple of years ago. And this was way before, obviously, things like streaming took off. And what they were doing was they were recording the gig, and then they were selling them on memory sticks. And then you could basically, they would post them to you. So you get your gig that you were at, you get the memory stick, and they would just send it to you. You bought the memory stick at the end of the gig, and you didn't get the memory stick, you just bought it, and then you gave your address, and they would just put them on memory sticks, and then you for that gig, so you were in that gig, and it was just, it's obviously people, audiences want some memorabilia, of course. That we go to merch tables and buy band T-shirts, and that was just some really different kind of cool memorabilia that just really struck me. So I was like, oh, I want one. I'm part of this, and that's kind of what happened. So I ended up with one of those memory sticks. It was cool, and it was it was a branded one. You know, it had Bare Naked Ladies on it, and it's really cool. It's a great idea. But obviously, the digital domain now, with obviously you can download all 45 minutes, or you could then go track 2 is whatever, just remember to write it to the memory when you stop it, and you could record loads and loads of yourself, you know, the band, or you could use it as a practice machine and play it back and go, is that any good? And yeah, really useful, really clever idea, which one of my friends actually told me about. So it's a great idea, because these are really high quality recordings at the end of the day. So yeah, that's really useful. One thing that I want to talk about as well before we sort of like finish up for evening as well. If no one else has got any questions, thank you, GP. I play called Gigs, so also on DistroKid as artist. Our Songbird Duo. Everyone go to your favourite streaming site right now and find Songbird Duo. Obviously, please don't leave the stream, but go and find Brian as Songbird Duo and go and subscribe to him. Go and download his music. It costs you nothing other than listening to music. And this is the great thing about digital music, and this is the thing I think a lot of people still haven't got their heads around, which is you are giving your music for free. You are pumping your music out for nothing. What I mean by that is you're not selling CDs, you're not burning CDs, you're not making memory cards, you're not doing anything like that. You give it to DistroKid, they push it out to all the streaming sites around the world, and then you have to do a damn thing basically other than promote it. So I'm old enough to remember basically having to burn CDs like a crazy man, like sort of like hours before a gig because I didn't have enough, or you would get some printed and it would cost you an absolute fortune. And people still want CDs, and I totally get that, but a report came out which was rounded from the UK, and it's a really hot topic at the moment about the streaming world getting reset. And 84% of the music listened to at the moment in 2021 is streaming services. Think about that for a second. Has HMV gone from your town? Now you know why. 84% of all music is streaming in 2021. Now, there is a pandemic, and obviously that's probably pushed people to things like streaming services. But if you think about that for a second, that's not 75%. It's over 4/5 is streaming, and it's insane that literally 10 years ago, people were talking about copyright and Napster, and maybe 15 years ago for Napster. I'm showing my age, but you get my point. So the great thing is, obviously, you can give your music away, and the whole point is you just promote it. And yes, I remember our price. Yeah, I used to go in there for singles. Do you remember going in for singles like this? Oh, Tandies. See, I'm just on the verge of remembering Tandies. I do remember it. So Goya's clearly in the UK. It's like trying to find a wimpy. So that's the joke for the evening. Trying to find a wimpy. I might call this live stream "Trying to Find a Wimpy," or "Trying to Find Tandies." I remember them. I remember them very well. I remember when in my DJ days when I used to do discos for people and just go and buy a load of singles in our price and things like that, and HMV. And Virgin Megastores, if you remember that. That was a little bit later. Anyway, I'm completely digressing now from looping. One thing I was going to talk to you about is having a look at music production. And one of these things that there's a couple of stuff that I used to be a wimpy in Southgate, North London. Is that where you are? I'm in North London. Yeah, that's it. Music production. And the thing is, loopers, obviously, I predominantly talk about loopers as performance tools. And one thing a lot of people use them for is creation tools. So performance tools obviously are like an end product. That's the way I look at it. So you're using it to perform, to create the whole song, or you're using it as a backing track, or you're using it that way. Some people have them on their pedal board and they will never play live with the looper, but it's there because in case they're noodling away and they suddenly get a cool riff and they want to get it down, or they want to harmonize with that riff either on the guitar or vocals, whatever, and they just want to figure it out. So creation-wise, when you're creating stuff, this is a really, really cool tool, and it's one of these things where loopers are designed for you to create stuff really quickly, and it's to get your creativity flowing more than stopping. And I truly believe that, and I think a couple of my songs have come out of, quite a few of my songs now have come out of looping, because you naturally loop. You naturally do it. You loop in your mind. If you've got a song, you've got an earworm in your head, you'll sing it over and over and over again. And you'll then start going, like if I went, right, there's my little riff. Already I'm going, what's the harmony for that? I don't know. So yeah, it's a great writing tool. So I don't know what the harmony could be. I could put a third, I could put a fourth, I could put a seventh, depends on what key I'm in. But These are fantastic, fantastic tools for that. So you could record yourself singing away, noodling away, and then record something over the top. Now, you don't always have one of these at your disposal. You don't. Maybe you're at work and you suddenly come up with something, and you don't always have something here. This is where, and I'm not expecting you to carry an iPad into work if you don't have one, but this is where something like one of these or one of these kicks in more than point. Now, I did a video, and I have to apologize to one man because I did a video all about an app which is called Music Made by Apple, and it was made by Apple because now, well, as this year they pulled it, and I'm gutted because she linked into GarageBand really easily. You created a memory, or you created a little music memo, and it would figure out the BPM, and then you could just put that into GarageBand, and that was your skeleton track. So it's really great stuff. Now, I did a video series, again sponsored by DistroKid, all about creating stuff from idea to release, and I used music memos in the first episode of that. So if you haven't seen that series, go and have a look. And it literally is recording everything on iPad. There's all on iOS. There's no computer involved. So it's one of those things where the best tool you have is the one you have with you. And that's a phrase that I've heard many, many times from many different people. So something like a smartphone, whether it be an Android device, an iOS device, if you can just record your voice, it's a very, very good. Obviously, just recording down, whether it's on Google Play or whether it's on iOS, getting something to record your voice or record something, even if it's just a voice memo thing, you could then take that home. You've got that idea, and then you put it into something like a looper, or you recreate it in a looper, and then you can start messing with the harmonies, or you can start messing with the beat, or what it's going to sound like, or even really easily. Let's have a look. Loopers are a great writing tool. I absolutely agree. Loopers per se can be so dull. More a practice tool. Ultimately, it has to lead somewhere. Yeah, and that's true. It'd be a starting point. Totally. So totally a starting point with something like this. Certainly, if you've got the time to sit down with a guitar or a keyboard or whatever you're doing, or microphone, and then you start looping. However, what I'm trying to get at is that you're not always sitting in front of one of these. So you can get loopers on these, and when you got things like Loopy HD at $3.99, and it's just the circles, and you just press it and it works. And Group the Loop is another one as well. So, I mean, my kind of like top loopers that I would say for iOS, not all of them are on Android, I'm afraid, is Loopy HD, Group the Loop, Quantum Loop Pro, 7 Looper. Those four are kind of like the top loopers that I would use for different things, in fact, would you believe? So I have actually used them all, and all very differently. Group the Loop is very good if you're doing song-based creation. You can create drum track, and that never changes, and then you verse, a chorus, a bridge, and you can do that very good, very easily, certainly on iOS. Quantum Loop is like a pedal, and that's very, very easy. And then obviously L7 and Loopy HD. Is that Live Loops, Goya? Live Loops on GarageBand is underrated. The thing with GarageBand itself is really underrated. You're absolutely right, and I think it's one of those things where Live Loops, for me, I like it. I like what they're doing with it. I get the idea of it. It's not a live looper, though. It's called Live Loops, but it's not as intuitive to then record a loop and then just go instantly into the next one and instantly into the next one. Whereas things like Group the Loop and Loopy HD, you can just do that straight away so quickly. However, saying that, once you've got your ideas down in GarageBand on Live Loops, you can then obviously add in the drummer, you can add in strings, you can add in all kinds. And technology like that is completely free. It's bundled in with your phone. It's bundled. There's a guy who a couple of years ago brought an album out, and the entire thing was done on iPhone. His name's Steve Lacy, Lacy. It's not my cup of tea kind of music, but basically it just proves that you could do it. He even sang into the phone with a pop shield. It didn't use a big mic or anything like that. And the only thing he had, I think, was an iRig, so you could plug in a bass hook guitar or a guitar. And that's incredible. The fact that the power of that, you can do that with now. So loads of people are literally, as Apple used to say, thinking differently about how music creation goes. Yes, the big things obviously are things like Logic and, moving from GarageBand up to Logic. I'd love to see Logic on an iPad, I really would. Or a version of it that could then obviously talk to the Mac. GarageBand can go up to Logic, but Logic can go to GarageBand, but not in the right way. It just ends up as a one-track thing. So live looping is really, really good. Now, that's a good question. What interface do you recommend for iOS? Now, I used to recommend one overall, and I reckon now I've just seen your other question, or Mixer. Okay, well, let's get into that because we'll go into the difference between interface and Mixer in a second. But if you're looking for an audio interface, you're looking for a very simple audio interface. I always use the Focusrite Scarlett 2i2. Now, I've got the second gen one, which is USB-A, and there is a third generation, which is USB-C. I have not tried the third generation USB-C on the iPad yet because that's USB-C and Thunderbolt. So for iPad, then I would go that route. However, if you're looking for something for phone, and that's the Lightning connector, there are actually now audio interfaces that have the right cable on, as opposed to you having loads of dongles. So you can get things like, again, Focusrite do one which is like called the Solo. No, it's not the Solo. It's the one below that. There's one. It looks like a little box, but the cable inside is Lightning straight into it. There's no dongle needed. So instead of having to carry a dongle around it, and then when you plug it in, it goes, oh, there's not enough power. You then need to plug it into the wall, and you're like, I'm on the bus, or I'm in a field. If you're singing on the bus, that's amazing. If you're in, you're camping or something like that, then you need the right interface. The other one to look at is IK Multimedia. Now, IK Multimedia, hey, there we go. Music nonstop straight in. I use iRig Stream. That was really good timing. The iRig systems, when they brought the original iRig out, into the headphone jack, and that was it. But now, of course, it's all digital. So the Stream, really, really good piece of kit. There's even mics you can get, which go literally, it's just a microphone. The audio interface is built into the actual chassis of the mic, and it goes Lightning straight in. Or if you want to plug in a guitar or anything like that, iRig Pro is really good. iRig Pro, in my opinion, and this is my humble opinion, now I think it's a bit overpriced for what it is, and there's a lot of cabling to mess around with. What's the other one I was looking at? The Audines ones. Is it let's say electric ID4, but it's Audines 4 or something like that. I'm gonna find it. I can't remember what it's called. Audio interface. But there's a little audio interface. Audeze. So AUDEZE. Have a look at them. They've done like a little. They do a little one which is quite good. AUDEZE. There we go. Audeze.com. They do ones like that. I think is it Audeze, or am I getting that wrong? Are they headphones? I can't remember now. No, Audeze are headphones. Ignore me. I'm thinking of someone, and what I'll do is I'll put it in the comments after this live stream because I can't remember who it is right now. But there's ones like that. The other one as well, which is quite good and is coming up really well on a lot of people's channels for review, is the Motu M4. Now there's an M2 and there's an M4, and the M4 has got MIDI as well. So it's I don't know if it's TRS, but I'm certainly it's 5-pin. So things like that, you go, oh cool. I've got one plug. I've plugged it in, and now I've got my microphone in. How do I plug my audio in? How do I plug my keyboard in? Now, the alternative of that, of course, is you can plug in things like a WIDI Master, which I did a review on, which is a Bluetooth-based MIDI controller. And my goodness, has Bluetooth MIDI come along since I last played with it. Really, really great. Really, really useful. And I haven't seen any major latency issues. It does have latency. It's about 5 milliseconds, but like by the time I've hit the key, I can hear it. And it's obviously that way you could plug your audio interface in if you didn't want to use traditional MIDI. And then if you've got traditional MIDI, you just plug a little plug in. I'm pointing over there, you still can't see it. It's a little adapter that plugs in by 5-pin DIN, and it just sends Bluetooth out, and it takes the power from the keyboard. So there's nothing to charge up or anything. Very useful. That's audio interface. Audio interface, I would have a look at those companies because, as I say, things like the iRig Pro does have its advantages, but there's lots of little cables to plug in and on either side and everything else. Lots of it's like a load of adapters. Whereas I'd go for something a little bit bigger, and then you've got everything built into it. Have a look also at the bit rate, because bit rates are going higher and higher. People now want to record in lossless. 16-bit is just not good enough anymore. When you've got a £70 looper at 24-bit, and you've got this like sort of like these two at 32-bit, you want to obviously have a look at it. The microphone I'm using right now is the Aston Stealth mic. Aston are a fantastic microphone. Loads of people have the Aston Spirit and the Aston Origin, but I love the Stealth. What you can't really see, you can see the purple little glow there. Just above that is 4 voices. So there's a V1, a V2, a G, and a D, and it's not like just doing separate mixing. It's got 4 separate circuitries inside, so it's like having 4 mics. What's also cool about it as well, it's 48 volts at the moment, but you can actually turn 48 volts off and it still works. So it's a passive, and it's a when it was brought out first, it's kind of like that, which is cool because you can have a screaming guitar on here, just turn 48 volts off and turn the input up, or have it like like this. It has the equivalent of a cloud lifter built in. I way prefer this over the Shure SM7B. Kill me if you want, I don't care, come fight me, because this is, I think, more versatile than an SM7B. You buy an SM7B, it's more expensive, and then you've got to buy a cloud lifter at 70 quid, and I'm like, ridiculous. Everyone seems to go to the SM7B. I actually prefer this. I think this is actually way more versatile. I've used this on female vocals. I've had someone in the studio when we were about 3-4 weeks ago, when we were first allowed to do it, and I just put it on V2, which is meant for a lighter voice or female voice. V1 is for a male voice, and that's what I leave it on for me. And then there's a G for guitar, and a D, which is meant to be ribbon. So it's really, really nice. So obviously we're talking about loopers today and looping Q&As, but we've kind of like digressed into what you connect obviously iOS devices to, things like audio interfaces, microphones. Now, one thing you said as well is having a look at the audio interfaces versus a mixer. Now, an audio interface is meant to do one job and one job only, and that's give you the best audio you can per channel. But if I was to actually live stream right now, I've got this on mono, so you should be able to hear this basically coming through both speakers. And if it's even right now, I say and it's clipping because it's too hot at the moment. And that's going through my audio interface. My Scarlett 2i2 is just under there, and I just have that permanently set underneath the Mac. However, if I was to plug my microphone in here and a guitar in on the second one, then what you will find is the microphone will be one channel and the guitar will be the other channel. And unless you've got software, never the between shall meet. So if you want to plug in to record, then I would go with a audio interface. If you want to plug in to do things like live streaming, then that little boy that's just hanging right behind me and just out of shot there is the USB mixer, and that is the Behringer Q802 USB mixer. I had to think about that then. So what that USB mixer does is whatever's being fed into it, no matter how many channels, it gives you the equivalent of the stereo out. So what that does is, again, it gives you stereo out to a PA or a speaker like this one here, and then at the same time it gives you the same feed out via USB, so a left and a right stereo out, and then you just feed that into your computer, or you can even feed it in with the right cable to an iPhone, and then you've got the live stream there. What's really good about that is you've got levels, so you can look at the peaking, make sure it's not clipping, and whatever's going in there is going into the device. Simple. Now, there are some more expensive USB mixers which then give you multiple channels, so you could then mix the USB that's coming out, and then you're going higher and higher in price range. So if you're looking for something to do it all, I'd go USB mixer, because then if you're a duo or anything like that, then you can do that right now. If you're looking to record and you want to record the highest quality possible, go and get an audio interface. Now, there are USB mixers that also double up as an audio interface, and then they have that quality, but it depends on what you need, and depends on what you're looking at. Right, I'm just going to have a quick look at the chat here because I need to figure out what people are saying. So people have just said a couple of things. Where are we? What mic are you using? Yes, cool. I have the Chase Bliss Dark World reverb pedal incoming. Nice. Nice. Hope to control the presets on it with the RC300 MIDI out. Any ideas? Does it work? So the RC300 does have MIDI out, and the nice thing about that is, in that scenario, is the MIDI out. I don't like using these two words, but basically, how can I say it in a different way? It's the main controller. There's another word that I don't really like using anymore. There's an M and an S word, but there we go. So that's the main controller and the one that's being controlled by. So yeah, as long as the RC300 is the main controller for it, you should be able to send MIDI either clock, or if that's what you want to do, change the time of the reverb, and send that out. It depends on the Chase Bliss, if Dark World reverb pedal, and what it needs in. You may need a MIDI. I don't even know whether that's TRS MIDI or 5-pin MIDI, but you'd have to figure that out. But yes, it should do. The RC300 should send MIDI out, and it can send MIDI clock as well. So definitely. The keyboard and touchpad integrated. Goya, what are you talking about? The keypad and the touchpad. The keyboard and touchpad integrated. Are you talking about the keyboard? When we were talking about the keyboard, let me know. On the Aeros Looper board, can you reassign all the start-stop buttons? Yes, you can. So what you can do, I think then, what you can do is there's a setting in it where you can actually reassign the start stops. You need to go into the memory, and you're really testing me now. You need to get. I haven't got it booted up. That's the one thing that's not up and running on this table. You need to go into the settings, and then you need to go into foot pedal control, I think it's called, or foot pedal switches. It'll come up with basically 4 of them, and then it'll be on off. And then what you can do with number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, and you can do that as well. So the bottom, for those who don't know, that's an old man noise, by the way, if you lift something heavy. So if you don't know, basically the bottom row here are record, play, dub, and these are stop. And what you can do is you can change these. So for example, I can change these over to effects on some of my channels. So that's my start, that's my stop, it's my record, play, sorry. And then you can have stop. Or what you can do is, if you change this to something else, this becomes sort of like a 1-pedal looper equivalent, like an RC5, for example. So you go record, play, stop, or like a double tap. So you can do things like that. These ones I don't think change, if I'm honest. I think they just change their functionality if you change the top row, but you can change them in that way. You can't completely reorganize them or anything like that. It doesn't have that facility. But yeah, you can change the top row. I've done that on a couple of different presets that I've got. So a couple of presets I need the I've got like an octave down, like an octave down that I route to my vocal, so I've got like a bass sound. But then also, if I use the TC Helicon, I've got a bass sound on there as well. So yeah, you can do that. That's fair enough. So is your audio being what are you saying, Gory? Let's have a quick look. Is your audio being fed to the speaker PA or your computer? Right now, my audio, this microphone is being sent into the audio interface, and my audio interface has been plugged into the computer. When I am doing a live stream, or I'm doing something with live looping or anything like that, all the audio is going into the USB mixer, which is behind me, and then the output of that is going to whatever, either the computer or the phone or the iPad, whatever I'm live streaming from, if that makes sense. I hope that does make sense. Being on the head rush and back on the boss again. Yeah, so there's basically there's a couple of things with the head rush, and it's a love-hate relationship. I love it. I do love it, and it is still my main loop. If I go out gigs, like for a big gig, that's what I'm taking. I'm taking that with the TC Helicon with me, and they're basically the 2 things I'll take with me, with an expression pedal as well. I use the expression pedal, and I set the expression pedal for the volume of the loops. So I do that. I used to do that with the RC300, and it was someone else showed me that, and it changed the game. I never used the expression pedal on the RC300 for anything, because I was like, what's the point? Because of those effects. No. So when someone showed me that I could reassign the expression pedal to be the volume of just the loops, that's an absolute game changer, because what you can do is 2 things. If you're in a live environment, you can go, oh, that's a bit loud. I'll just pull it back a little bit, and then you're still on top. So your vocal, your guitar is still above the loop, so you can pull it back a little bit. That's quite nice. And then the other thing as well is you can use it as a little bit of a drop kick. So when you've got a loop going, and imagine your foot's on there and you pull it down. You go and it literally can do that. So that's really, really useful when you want to just kind of drop the beat out a little bit. You can do that, which is really, really handy. Oh, my camera has decided to look at my face and move. There we go. Sorry about that. Cool. So yeah, I must be the only one that is still using an RC50. LOL. I'm looking into the Aeros Looper board. That's awesome. The thing with the RC50 is I actually prefer the button layout for the loops. Obviously, they're not integrated because that's what the RC300 was doing. So they're independent in their own way, but they're linked together. I would have preferred the RC300 to come out, but with that button integration, because you can then stop. You know, you can stop all individually, and I get that. It was basically like 3 RC30s, like just like side by side, and they just went bang, bang, bang. There you go, have that. I really like the button layout of the RC50. I had the 50, and you could push the like 2 button, like say like you had like one there, one there. You could push 2 buttons kind of with 1 foot, like really easily, as opposed to kind of like doing double pedaling, as I call it. So yeah, so the RC50, a top notch here. I take my hat off to you, GC Mac Music, because RC50 still rocking it. Love it. That's better. It's anything we're doing a live stream, and I talk a lot, so I need to drink some fluids. Yeah, cool. Just all start stop. Yeah, I mean all start stop. If you want. Oh, I see. I'm sorry. You want to look at the all start stop on the Aeros Looper board. You reassign the all start stop button. No, you can't. The all start stop is the all start stop. That's it. You can't reassign that. You can reassign each individual one. I realize what you're saying now. I'm sorry. And yeah, you can do that. But basically, you can. The all start stop is just that. Now, I do know of someone. I don't know the person directly, but I do know of someone who rewired. They opened the that said Aeros Looper board, and they rewired the actual switches upside down. So what they did was, let me get it again. For those of you who don't know, on the Aeros Looper board, you all start stop. There we go. Is there that one? So if you imagine your loops are here and your all start stops there, it's meant to be out the way deliberately, but at the same time, it's a bit of a pain. To kind of loop up, or you can actually press this one by mistake if you've got big feet, and certainly if you're at an angle, sometimes you can hit effects as well. So someone I know someone who's got one, and they know someone who basically opened this up and then literally wired these round. Like, so wired that one and that one. They opened it up, and of course you've voided your warranty, and that's it. You've goosed it now. But they've literally wired that the way around, so their function button is there, and their start stop is at the bottom, so they can literally just go boop like that really, really quickly. A nice way around that is, as I say, using a effects pedal as a volume control for all the loops. Because if you want to stop something really quick, you can just go like that and pull it down with your foot, and that's what I do. So I've got that as a secondary option. Now another option you've got, and I'm just going to go and get it, so please excuse me. When I started this live stream, I thought, should I put this on the table? No one want to talk about this. But we're kind of talking about pedals. So, this boy. Now, this thing has changed the game for me quite considerably, and it's the Morningstar series of MIDI pedals. Because things like the Boss RC5 and RC500 have MIDI control, this has TRS MIDI, also expression pedals. You can plug an expression pedal in one, a TRS in another, use USB, and you've got normal MIDI as well. And I've even been tempted to put the WIDI master on the back of this, so it's Bluetooth MIDI. And I'm thinking about doing that. Anyway. This thing is brilliant, and what they've turned around and said is if your pedal, whatever it is, has MIDI, and it basically this can control it. So this is a blank page. This has 22 presets per bank. It has a number of banks. I can't remember what it is now. I think it's about 40 banks. And you can literally program it, each one, to do something completely different. That's just a normal MIDI pedal. What this does is you can program one button to do 16 things at the same time. So imagine, for example, let's just talk about the, where are we? Music Nonstop. You had this Chase Bliss Dark World reverb pedal, and it's got MIDI on board, right? Imagine for a second you press that, and then what that would do is it would turn that on, or it change the preset of that, and at the same time stop all the loops. That is insane. So you can do something like that. They've gone so far, Morningstar have gone so far into doing it where they've actually done sine wave or waveform MIDI control. So imagine you've got a wah pedal, or you want to create a wah pedal. You can hold that down, it'll go, send the MIDI control as a wave pedal. You could do things like that. So this thing is absolutely insane, but also what it's done as well is it's completely unleashed it. Let's go back over to the RC5, and the RC5 has MIDI control. So it's one button, but then it suddenly becomes 9 buttons, and those 9 buttons, these other 8 buttons, can do multiple things. So I could have a start, stop, all. I could have a move up page. I could have a undo. I could have a reverse. I could have a put the effect on, take the effect off, go on to the next channel. You can do absolutely loads. One thing I want to look into, actually, to help with the intro verse thing, is whether we can actually write to the program just by pressing the button. And that's something I'm looking into at the moment. So stay clear with that. And we'll have a look and see if we can actually do that. Obviously, stay tuned. I should say, not stay clear. Stay tuned. Please don't stay clear with me. Stay tuned, and I'll see if I can do that. And that's what we're going to have a look at it. Yeah, and I think, music. First of all, GK, you were more than welcome. No problem at all. I've been trying to shrink my setup, and then of course end up getting more things like this. But yeah, I've seen, obviously, I spoke to Carl, and me and Carl have a great sort of YouTube friendship, I'd like to say, through looping, and he's a great guy, and have a word with him. Go and find his channel. He's dead easy to reach out to, and he knows quite a lot about the Aeros Looper board. He obviously that's his main baby, and he uses it. And yeah, I've seen what he's done, where he's got like this board and he's put pedals on top of it. Freaks me out a little bit, that like putting pedals on top of pedals. I don't know why I have an issue with it, because I'm like, how do you get to the controls? How do you get to the volume? I don't know. It's just bizarre to me, but I like it. I like what he's done. I think it's really cool. Really useful. You could build, yeah, that's cool. Hi, welcome back. Hope you're okay. We're still here, and that's all good. He does not have MIDI, but he built on top. Yeah, I know. Yeah, he's got a couple of other pedals. So he's got things like his Wumper, and he's got like he's got a cool pedal for turning on and off the microphone, because he's got a dedicated microphone for looping. I don't. I use one microphone for everything. Maybe I should start doing 2 microphone system, because a lot of people do that. But yeah, he's got all those little pedals that are sitting on top as well, which is really cool. Performing a whole song live with a looper, is a fade out a good option to end the song based on your own experience? Yes. I'll give you an example. Some songs are designed like that. If you're playing some covers, you notice there are some covers that naturally fade out, and you can emulate that, and then people just go. Or what you could do is, of course, you could then, if you're clever enough to do it, you could amalgamate that song into another song, and start doing a mega mix. So you could do things like that. But yes, you can fade out, and that's what I do with the pedal. I've done that as well. And then if you've got an pedal, it's a lot more control than not. You get fade out. So for example, there's a little looper here. It's got a fade out. It's got a 5-second fade out, but the curve on it, it kind of goes da, 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 and it, like the last bit just cuts off. So it's not smooth. Whereas you've obviously got much more like fluidity and control if you've got like an expression pedal. Or you could use something like that and obviously hit one button, and then what that'll do is it'll hold it down or press it, and it'll send a signal to actually the MIDI signal to then just fade things out. If that if your looper can handle that, and that's the key thing. So yeah, I use a single button MIDI controller, really small, a disaster area MIDI baby. Oh, cool. What do we use that single button for? What are we doing with it? What's its purpose? Music nonstop. What's the purpose of a single button MIDI? What's it doing? So MIDI controllers. These guys, by the way, this is the MC8 for 8 buttons. They also have an MC6, which is like that, and an MC3, which is kind of like 2 buttons there and 1 button there. So if you only want like 3 buttons, they do that as well. But all the functionality is still the same. They're really good with firmware updates. And the way you control this, you don't even download software. You just go on Chrome and you use the what's called their editor, and you plug it into your computer, and the editor recognizes it's there. Really easy, and if you log in, it saves all your stuff. So I've got one profile for the RC5500. I've got another profile for Loopy HD on the iPad, and I've got a third profile for the TC Helicon. And you can literally go through the banks. You can actually bank up and toggle up through the programs, and then each one's got 2 banks of pedals, if that makes sense. So you've got like bank A and bank B for each memory. Imagine them each memory. So then once you've programmed them all up, if you've got different setups, you can just plug that in and get the right setup, and it's good to go. And if you ever need to change it, you can change it directly on here, but the menu is a bit weird with just this little thing. It's much easier to just plug it into a computer and go click, 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 done, and that's it. Really useful. Cool. There we go. That would be a good option for an all-start-stop for the headrush. Yes, you can do that, and I actually did do that as well. So you can do an all-start-stop on this. You can do that, no problem at all. Someone asked me if that was possible, so I actually programmed it up that way, and there is an all-start-stop you can do on that. And you can do an all-clear as well, which is cool. So you can do an all clear, just one button press, and it clears the lot. Someone wanted to do that where they just use one program that they've got all the right effects for, and they don't change it at all, but they just want to clear it and get to the next one. What they used to do, 2 programs and up one and down one, up one and down one. You just clear it and hold it all, and then it just clears. So you can do that if you want to, which is really, really good. The RC300 one press mic mute, hold down, clear everything, ultra press, reverb 100%. Oh, that's cool. So it's actually a multi-press MIDI controller. That's really cool. I like that. That's what these do as well. These do like a single press. You got double tap. You got hold and release. You got double tap and then release as well. You've got all these different controls you can do with this as well. That's really cool. I like that. So one press is mic mute. That's cool. And then done. And then you've got hold to clear all on the RC300. Again, really useful because you're not going to do that by mistake unless you really hold it down. And an ultra long press is reverb 100%. So with the ultra long press, of course, I suppose you've got to take a bit of timing on that to get that right. That's cool. The user experience on the MIDI configuration tool is not great. Not as good as the Morningstar, but it's a small pedal as hell. I'm going to have a look at that. I'm going to look into your little pedal there. That sounds really, really cool. Thank you for bringing that to my attention. So, guys, thank you very much for kind of like sticking around. We've done a little bit longer than we were going to this evening because I normally only stream for about just over an hour, but we were about an hour and a half. So, one final thing just before you go, and if you've got any questions that you thought, I should have asked it and I didn't, please put it in the comment section of the live stream. This live stream is available on YouTube and also Facebook. We're also streaming on Twitch as well, and we're streaming on lots of different places. But if you want to obviously ask a question, please do so. If you've forgotten and then you remember at 3 a.m. and you wake up in a cold sweat and go, I didn't ask JP the looping question, I'm always available. You can always ask me. There's not a problem. Please put it in the comments and we'll do it. And this live stream is sponsored by DistroKid, which obviously is a distribution company. You give your music to them and they push it out to all the music streaming sites around the world. So they are helping us with this live stream and obviously helping me. So by clicking that link, you're helping me as well, but also you'll get 7% off your first annual membership if you want to start live streaming your music. You're welcome. Thank you very much. Thank you to say it's a great show. It's all good. I'm glad because I had a couple of things I wanted to answer, and I'm glad you guys came up with some questions as well. Ta-ra, lads. Love it. Fantastic. Thanks a lot. Good night, everybody. And thank you very much for jumping in and obviously giving your expertise on what you know as well. And together we're going to obviously help each other out. So that sounded a bit cheesy, but it's kind of true. So guys, thank you very much for coming to the live stream. Have a fantastic weekend, whatever you're doing. If you're gigging, then go and gig the best that you can. And if you are recording and you're just looping, then go and create something new. Have a great evening. Take care. Bye-bye.